BIC episode number 114. We've got ourselves Brandon, Bobbles, and Baller Cards doing a flu game, except it's like back, pain, hip, broken. It's like Eric basically all the time. But like it's more rare for him. But when he reaches Eric's age, we can only imagine the horrors that await him. It's tragic.
That's true. That is true.
Yes. And Eric's just whiny because he's soft. So, that's just in general terms. However, we are going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to briefly touch on backyard breaks because we do have an update. So we're going to open that up to have a brief discussion on that. We did get a great comment on last week's episode, so we will touch on that as well. So we always thank the comments. We always appreciate the feedback. Obviously, keep it coming. We'd love to hear more, especially if you've got a thought on something we end up talking about. And we will talk about the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame. Our infamous YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame, because now we have results. We're going to do deep analytics into this. We're going to get into it. And of course, the silly card of the week, that and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. Not to spoil anything, but all I have to say is hashtag justice for Pedro. Justice for Pedro. We're gonna get to that. That's gonna be the last segment where we're gonna talk about that in more depth. But before we do, let's touch on a couple of quick things. Real quick, before we get into anything else, I want to get into the silly card of the week. I want to get into a few things, but let's do two sporting topics here off the top. First, the obvious one. We got the big football game at the end of the season here coming up. I just want a quick prediction for you. So, Eric, Super Bowl, who's winning? Is it the three-peat?
Tush push.
He's going for the Philadelphia. Are you sure you don't want to pick Detroit?
Detroit.
There's still time.
Detroit.
Just say it. The meteorite could still hit Detroit. There's still a chance.
Yeah, the Lions in 3.
I like it. That's fair. Brandon, which one are we going with?
This is tough to even say because I don't really care for Philadelphia. They're probably second being the Phillies, and the whole, they got ex-Nationals players and everything, but let's go Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Saquon, run for 500 yards, throw for 400 yards. Let's go Saquon.
Mm-hmm. So we got different angles on this, and so I'm going to make this clear in the way that I define it so that we're all on the same page. Eric, of course, wishes to doom Detroit. So no matter what, he's trying to curse Detroit. That's one angle.
Only money.
Brandon, of course, talked about his zest, his enthusiasm for this. That's another angle. Now, here's the thing.
I just want to mention the news that came out this week about one of my favorite players all time on the Ravens is just throwing even more fuel to my rant of last week. So go Justin Tucker.
Debate. So it seemed, yes. So let me quickly outline it this way, because I'm in the minority on this. I actually would like to see a 3P because we're probably never going to see one again. Realistically, just not likely. Even with everything that's going on, we had the spirited debate last week. There is actually a fair bit of parity because it's tough to reload. Teams generally don't. We've had two teams in the last 25 years that have been able to do it with any kind of success. For the most part, the other teams are just spread out. Other teams have had at least a crack at it over the course of that time. And the likelihood is at some point they'll make a mistake and then they won't be able to rebuild. That's basically what happened to Patriots. And they had a 10-year period in the middle of their dynasty where they didn't win anything. They tried a couple of times.
I would just like to say one thing. 3-peat, okay. But unless they can win this year and go back and win next year, they're still far and beyond away. Because you forget, we had the mighty Buffalo Bills go 4 years in a row and lose, which that almost feels more impressive than 3 years of winning. I'm just saying.
So somebody out of Buffalo is like, I don't know about that one. Yeah. we would have taken 3 wins. We would have taken 3 wins. We didn't need the 4th one. It was fine. Don't worry about it. And by the way, the Buffalo thing, the worst part about the Buffalo losing to Kansas City, Eric, is that is the 4th straight time they've lost to Kansas City. So they're 0-4 again, but not even with the Super Bowl thing. That ain't good.
They're like what was that commercial? The insurance commercial, the old man with the fishbowl.
There were a lot of insurance commercials. I don't remember specifically that
With
one.
the dollar bill on the end of the fishing pole.
Nope, got nothing.
Okay.
The internet will let us know. If you know Brandon's reference, put it in the comment section and let us know. Regardless, so I'm going to wager in this case, when I'm making a bet, I think getting the three Super Bowl in a row is actually very difficult, and I think winning a third one is obviously very difficult since no one has literally done it. It has literally never happened. So I do think Philadelphia has the right components to make this a game, and the way it works to me is if Philadelphia comes out and controls the running game, controls the clock. I'm a big if you control the clock and you're controlling time of possession, I think it gives you a real chance. I think basically the only thing they need to do is I would just feed the ball to Saquon. A heavy dose of Saquon, let him do his thing. Jalen Hurts' job is don't fuck it up. That's basically, control that clock all the way through to the very end, and I think you've got a damn good chance.
They also have AJ Brown, so I mean they got talent out there at wide receiver too. So
Sure, but I still think the path to victory for Philadelphia is do
keep
what
it out
you
of
do
the
really well
offensive
here.
end,
Just
yeah.
feed the man the football and a heavy dose of Saquon. All Saquon all the time, and I really like their chances. I will pick Philadelphia because I feel that getting that three-peat is extremely difficult for the reasons that I outlined. Stuff can go wrong. Being consistently in close games can work against you because sometimes one thing goes wrong, and that's all it would take. If it's a close game, I wouldn't count out Kansas City, but I'll pick Philly in this specific instance for this matchup. So that's my guess. That's what we'll go. We'll see what happens. I will do a live stream for it. I will do a little watch along live stream. Feel free to come on by. If you don't want to watch the game and you just can't stand it, well then watch us bullshit about it and chat with us in the chat, and we'll have some fun either way. Bring snacks and bring snacks.
Snacks are good.
Just say bring snacks. That's my suggestion to you. All right, so that's the first one. Second one. Luka Doncic traded in a inexplicable. We don't even look. This is how serious it is. I don't even care about the basketballs. The squeak, squeak, squish. Don't care. Honestly, don't give a crap. However, when you've got an absurd trade, when you've got a wacky, wild trade that's kind of like, huh, and why did you do that? Then it gets everybody's attention a little bit. Even the non-basketball version. So fascinating. So what I want to hear first is thoughts. And then we can briefly touch on the card angle. I think we can have a little fun with that for a moment. So Brandon, initial thoughts.
Initial thoughts, I was shocked like everybody else, especially after reading that Dallas is the one that proposed the trade. That was very confusing. The fact that like Luka wasn't even aware that it was like there was a lot of elements outside of what actually happened that were very shocking in terms of the situation. My thoughts regarding the trade, again, if it was LA proposing it, it would make more sense to say this, but I think there's people concerned with like Luka's conditioning and his weight and his injuries and all this other stuff. And I completely understand that. I think LA is looking more at, they know LeBron doesn't have a lot left. LA's always got a superstar there. Bringing Luka in can, kind of guarantee that there's a superstar athlete there on the team and likely entice other players to want to come to LA. But for the fact that Denver was just in the finals last year and they're giving up the main piece to the puzzle, it's kind of like
you mean Dallas, not Denver.
Or yeah, sorry. Well, I think Denver was too. Didn't they win?
I think it was a couple of years ago.
Anyway,
Was
either
last
way,
year
I know that Dallas
Yeah.
was there. If I said Denver,
Yeah.
my apologies.
Yeah.
But they basically, they took the batteries out of the game. Like it's not going to work now. Now there are some people saying, and the GM or whoever it was said they feel that AD's defense will benefit Dallas. I've also heard some people discussing it that think Anthony Davis's defense is more beneficial to Dallas than Luka's offense will be beneficial to the Lakers. So that was kind of an interesting take to it.
It's my point on that is it's possible. Like in the short run, the concern is if you're worried about Luka's conditioning, though, Anthony Davis can get hurt at any time.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah,
has an MO, like it
yeah.
happens for him all the time. On paper, in isolation, Eric, if I just say isolation, yeah, he's the better defender. He's a big man who can guard the rim. He can. There are things that he can do that Luka Doncic either can or won't. So that's
And
true.
I don't want to pretend that I know enough or follow basketball enough anymore to speak in full depth of the trade, because some of the role guys, the what was it, Maxi Kleber and a couple other guys that were packaged in there, I don't know what talent level per se that they bring to the table. Everybody's focusing on basically it being a Luka for AD trade. They're not looking at the other pieces. Like there was a first round pick, I think, thrown in there or something too. Um, so we don't know, will it balance? I think it's the shock that holy shit, you just gave Luka basically for Anthony Davis, and that that was shocking. That was the wow factor. What the WTF factor. Um,
Mhm.
but again, it's not surprising. LA, I've said it before. As a 16-year-old on my birthday, my hopes and dreams were crushed when Shaq was moved to, of all teams, the LA Lakers, July 14th, 1996. Huge Shaq fan, and I could not follow him because nothing against LA. I just didn't want to feel like I was a bandwagon fan. So they always find a
There you
way
go.
to put a superstar, on the court. So
That's been their MO for a long time. So before I get you in on this, Eric, just one other quick thought that kind of piggybacks off what Brandon is saying. For me, it's not even the comparison. I'm the same vein. I don't follow basketball enough to be able to sit here and definitively talk about the players, talk about the impact, talk about all that. I can speak in the abstract. I know enough to be dangerous. That's about as far as I'm willing to go here. But one thing I can say that I think is one of the things that made people's eyebrows go up, and I think it's universal. I think everyone will agree. Whether you think maybe what Dallas is getting might work, or whether for some reason you think Luka's conditioning issue might be a long-term problem, even if you think those things, even if you're Dallas and you think those things, and you don't want to sign the Supermax, and you're worried about that commitment, and you don't want to do it, even if all that's true, wouldn't it make sense for you to have
to
shopped
shop.
him around and
Yep.
tried to get the best possible package? It's not even that you went to the Lakers, is that you seemingly didn't shop it around to anybody else. That is the one that gets the tinfoil, is being crumpled and everybody is preparing it in the shape of a hat so they can put on their hat to protect them from the rays reading your mind.
Yep.
Yeah, you touched on a few of the things I was gonna say, so I won't go into a big long diatribe. But I think the best thing I could say is Dallas knows something that we don't. Um, the Supermax was coming up, and they no longer thought he was worth that investment. LA, like Brandon, you said, has this long history of grabbing, superstars and bringing them to LA, whether it be Kareem, whether it be Shaq, you know,
Wilt? Wilt?
Wilt,
Yep.
they have done good with young talent too. I mean, the whole Showtime guys, they all, mostly drafted, I think, all those guys. Kobe, they got from Charlotte before he even put a uniform on there, right? So I mean, they got young talent, but they do have a history of saying we will be relevant. LeBron, I mean, that's the biggest one, right? I mean, they got LeBron there, so they will. They want to be relevant. They want to be the LA Lakers all the time, forever. They don't want their franchise to be without the best player in the world. So it makes sense that LA did this and they jumped on it. They'll spend the money. They want more championships. They want the biggest name in the game. And so and maybe this will spark Luka to up his game a little bit, you know, and compete, because as much as I cannot stand LeBron James, I don't like the fact that he flops and cries, and I'm not a fan of him off the court either, but the guy is kept it works his butt off when he needs to, and keeps himself in unbelievable shape. And he's like 40 years old. You know, so there's a lot to admire about the guy. There's no question. Maybe Luka will get some of that good stuff that LeBron can offer and internalize it and kind of follow him a little. And hopefully none of the bad stuff, because I think there's a lot of bad stuff when it comes to LeBron. But
Here's a question I would like to get y'all's opinions on, because this was something, and this is like outside of. I know these guys have more money than they could ever, probably like
no,
blow.
they have blown it. There's many, and I could say that 20 more minutes. NBA players who have blown every single dime of their multi-million, billion to $trillion contracts. So
Well,
yeah,
my point to it was, if you were in, let's say you were in Luka's shoes, okay, middle of the season,
yeah,
games are still being played. You have probably a very elaborate house in the Dallas area that you probably have spent a shit ton of money on. And you wake up and you're like, I've got to move to LA. Like, I'm sure they have people that plan that and everything, and it happens all the time, but
they do.
it's like that level. I would be
Yeah.
like, I mean, I guess looking at it from my perspective, I'd be like, what the hell am I gonna do? Like, you got to go find a house. And I was thinking, well, I guess maybe he could just stay with LeBron, because I'm sure LeBron's got enough.
Brandon, thank you for bringing that up, because I was going to say, like, listen, Eric is a terrible judge of character. He talks to janitors and thinks they're Peter Forsberg. So the man is not the one that I would trust in these situations. I don't care if Eric thinks LeBron is the worst person in the world, because that might actually mean they're a god. That might actually mean they're a saint. That might actually mean they're a wonderful person, because really, if we take Eric's prognostications at face value, again, Tom Brady, clearly a swell fella. Eric hates him. That's how I know he's good. That's easy. No problem there. That's how I know. But here's the thing, though. No, totally. LeBron should literally be like, come here.
Yeah.
I've got a guest house with your name on it, bro. And not only that, allow me to introduce you to my personal trainer. Like, if you're LeBron,
I have a court
yeah,
right
like it's
over
like
here.
my young
do
friend. Can I interest you in Factor meals? Can I interest you in some Factor meals? And you know what? Here's my personal chef and my personal trainer. And let me talk to you about hyperbaric chambers, young man. Like, let me teach you the ways. He's got like the best personal trainer he can get that money can't buy. Literally.
I'm sure they're like, there's people that set all that up. But I was just thinking about it, like, I guess as, a regular individual, you sit there and you're like, or maybe it's just my brain thinking the stupid stuff, but if I woke up and somebody's like, hey, you got to move halfway across the country out of nowhere, unexpectedly, what? Like, what? So it's just weird to me, especially if it was an off-season thing, that would make, that'd be a little bit different. It's like, you got to go to work, I'm sure they're going to give him like a game or two off or whatever, I'm sure, but it's like the games are still being played, and it's the middle of the season, and not to mention, I mean, not to bring it up, but LA's not in the best of shape right now, so I don't know what the market looks like housing wise and everything, but it's just a crazy freaking thought.
And typically, because there's individually, but then there's kind of more typically, who do you think in these situations are the most angry when these trades happen, especially when you don't even see them coming? Who do you think is
the one going to the worst team? Because
no,
then they gotta up and relocate too.
The wife.
Yeah. I don't know. Luka's probably not. I don't know if he's married yet.
If they have kids, they got kids in school. The kids have friends. The wife takes care of all that stuff. She has friends. She has relationships. She's friends with the other wives and girlfriends of the other players. And now, because the player plays and has to travel, especially during the season, right? She's the one that's going to be responsible of setting up the new house and everything. She's like the manager. Okay. She's not just some silly little housewife. I mean, she's the boss. She's the manager. She's the one in charge. And she woke up going, I have to do what? I have to find a new house. I got to find a new school. I got to find new friends. I got to do, get a moving truck. The wives do not like when this happens. And having spoken to players that have been traded or have signed free agent contracts and moved, I've heard some stories. The wives,
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably not fun, and it's
and
probably worse in the middle of the year.
sometimes the wives go, well, you have fun out there because I'm not uprooting the kids. I just, remodeled this entire house and just put, $1 million into it. And the kids Johnny's got a learning disability and this teacher's finally, making some progress with them and all that important stuff in life. And the players are like, all right, so they're living out of hotels or other players' guest houses and flying back on days off. Or I've heard all sorts of stories. And then of
I
course
know it happens all the time. This one just really, it made me think about it because you likely know Luka expected that he was never leaving Dallas.
Well, I think at the current time, right now especially, I think he was expecting that there would be a contract offer, or and for
Right.
some reason that broke down, then then fine, you can look at options. But I will say, counterpoint to Eric's point, our friends at Wikipedia here, the Doncic house was burglarized on December 29th, 2024. So maybe they want to get out.
Yeah, maybe.
The house has been burglarized. We out of here.
Happening all over the league. You guys know about this, right?
That's why you go to the LeBron James compound.
But it's not just basketball, it's athletes in all the sports that this trend is that you look at the schedule and say, okay, so player X is going to be on the other side of the country playing an away game. There's no one home. Or, just the wife or kids or what, and you would think there'd be better security at a superstar athlete's home that has millions of dollars. I mean, Joe Burrow's house got robbed.
So what kind of security, around the clock security, do you have at, Shea Wade when you decide to take your little bike rides? Because it could take hours with all the crashing. So, as an elite athlete, and you all can watch the New Year's episode to see what an elite athlete looks like.
That's true.
That was a lot of quotation marks, Brandon. You get all that? That was a lot of quotation marks happening there. Is all I'm getting at. So as an elite athlete, around, sentries with machine guns, like sharks with laser beams. Like, what do you got?
Definitely sharks with laser beams on their heads.
I'm not sure what that accent was, but okay. Can we move on? Can we move on now? Okay, real quick before we finish up, I want to get a thought on this though. The most interesting thing for me, and we'll see what happens. I think though, for the LA Lakers, I actually think this is a minimal risk thing because, as I said, Anthony Davis is kind of an injury-prone player. It does give them a potential future if Luka ends up being motivated out of this, and he follows our advice and goes to Shea LeBron and gets the personal chef and round-the-clock personal training. This dude could be a stud by the end of the season. Who knows? Then he could make some mega money and become the new face of the franchise going forward, because LeBron's only has X amount of time left. For LeBron, I'm sure he's not complaining because, hey, you know what? I get a great player to play with and we can still do a couple of moves here to fill in some of the gaps. Gives me maybe one more shot at this. What the hell? Let's give it that's what I'm saying. I'm sure LeBron, if he was in his stud, it wouldn't be the worst idea. You know what? Hey, tell you what, I'll show you again, hyperbaric chamber. Do you want me to show you how it works? Like, I'll show you how to set it up and dial it up and do all these things. What's the harm, Eric? You may as well give yourself your best chance, right?
Shit, you never know. LeBron might let him stay there. And then
would. If I was him, I'm sure the house is a palatial estate. He's got plenty of room. He's not going to bother anybody. But go.
What I was going to say is, if he was when he's done and he's ready to hang the sneakers up, he may not want to keep that place because he is, from Akron after all. I'm sure he's got a nice place there. Maybe he's like, hey, Luka, want to buy this?
Yep. You can shop it around. You get a twofer. You get a player for the short run. You get a player for the short run, and then maybe you sell him the house. Eric, this sounds like a win-win-win to me. Sounds like a win-win-win. Go for it. So anyway, so any thoughts though, really high level? So assuming if it goes well, obviously going to the Lakers does open up the potential marketplace for Mr. Luka, because he was obviously the face for a little while there with all the Luka Prism cards and all that. Well, it kind of gives you a bit of a lease on life. And if they have any success there at all, obviously he's been a great player, but if he becomes remotivated and they have any success in that marketplace, those LA folks will throw money at those cards.
Oh, yeah.
Like it'll give them a little boost.
I'm gonna bring this up, and if there's any viewers, commenters, listeners that have been around long enough watching my old content, I basically got told I was crazy because I sent in 2019 Prism, LeBron James, bunches of them. I had colored parallels, all kinds of stuff that I had pulled for grading. And somebody was like, "Do you really think those cards will sell?" Now, granted, it was pandemic time, so there was a little bit of juice there. But yes, they all sold. And remember, it was the LeBron James Lakers rookie. We will eventually have a Luka Doncic Lakers rookie, and I guarantee people will go after them.
Yeah, I mean, these are the Lakers are the one of the top 4 biggest markets with Boston, New York, and Chicago. So, I mean, Dallas is a great franchise. It's since Vinsky, Nowinski, whatever the hell his name was over in Dallas, Jason Kidd in those years. I mean, Dallas really improved as a marketplace, but you can't compete with the top 4, right? I mean, so the fact that he's in one of the 2 best basketball franchises now is going to pique interest. And I can only imagine people are running out and grabbing his stuff right now and grabbing his cards and stuff right now off the eBays and the other auction sites and card shops and everything, because he's a Laker now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a lot bigger of a deal than being a Maverick. There's nothing like being a Laker or a Celtic. That is a big deal. And yeah, this is great for the league. And it's going to be good for him in the long run if he keeps his ass in shape and learns how to play defense. Because I think that's what it came down to, is that Dallas is like, we are not the Lakers, we're not the Celtics. We agreed to pay you a supermax, but you won't play defense.
And the thing is, they haven't agreed to pay him a supermax yet. They haven't actually done the deal. He's actually lost potentially a lot. Even if the Lakers then offer him their version, again, don't please understand, I'm not up on the NBA as much as, but I have been listening to some of this. Even if the Lakers thing works out, he has lost over $100 million with this trade. Because even if the Lakers offer him their version of the supermax that they can offer him, they can never offer him as much money as the Mavericks could have. No, so he's actually lost a ton of money.
Right, because there's a salary cap, and they're paying LeBron God knows how much. So
it's not even that. The rules don't allow them to pay him as much, even if LeBron wasn't there. They're not actually allowed to pay him as much as the Mavericks could have.
I haven't looked into that, to be honest. So I'm not going to pretend to, and talk out of my ass. So I didn't mean to say agreed to. That slipped out. I guess I was going to just say they're not about to pay you the supermax when you don't play defense, and we have concerns about your fitness level as a professional athlete. So, and then who knows what other internal stuff was going on within the organization. We have no idea. I mean, it may come out at some point, but right now we have no idea what was going on behind closed doors. What kind of relationship he had with management, the coaching staff, his teammates. We have no idea. So, maybe he was a cancer in the locker room. Maybe he's a prima donna, and they were like, "We're not doing this anymore." And
I'm not going to give that much credit. I see nothing to tell me this Dallas Mavericks management deserves that much credit.
No, I have no idea. I'm just saying.
I think they just didn't want to pay the money,
Yeah.
which I get. Like, look,
But-
but I still think you should have shopped him around though. If you're gonna trade him off, then get the best package. Is all I'm getting at.
But if he had Michael Jordan at in the middle of his career, you wouldn't get rid of him because he did everything. He scored, he played defense, he hustled, he stayed in shape. I mean, he was a freak of nature. This kid,
I mean, technically, Jordan left and just went and played baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is,
golf.
for a basketball franchise, like, and we'll get off this topic here right now in a second here. But look, bottom line is, like, look, out of shape, he's averaging 28.1 points per game. Those guys don't grow on trees, and you didn't replace that. So from that perspective of it, like, and again, all it would take is one injury, and Anthony Davis is like, so then you traded him literally for nothing. You didn't even trade him for deflated basketballs. You don't even have deflated basketballs.
No, he'll get hurt, and he's not putting up 28 points a game. So
yes, so that's kind of, so the hope from LA is that basically you can convince him to go live in LeBron's house, personal chef, personal trainer. If the kid takes it as a slap in the face and it motivates him, and he elevates his game, hey, congratulations, Lakers. Good for you.
And just to defend myself a little there, Carlos. All right, smart ass. This big old dumb, Slovak some bitch. He ain't gonna get in that garage and ride on a bike for 2.5 hours and do 37 miles. All right. So I am a supreme super athlete, or whatever the hell you called me. I am an elite athlete. Elite.
Every time I look at you, the first thought that comes to my mind is elite.
Thank
athlete.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Just throwing it out there. By the way, folks, this is why you need the visuals. You need the visuals for this.
There's no way that Supermax son of a bitch is doing what I did on New Year's.
Anyway, all right. So that's it for that. That's our scintillating NBA analysis. We know nothing. Don't worry about it. So I'll just throw it in there. But let's talk about Silly Card of the Week. And I want to thank AMG Collectibles and amgcollectibles.ca in the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. We will be back. There will be an episode recorded tomorrow at the time we're recording this. Well, earlier today in the day we're recording this. It will drop on Wednesday. Talking about some new stuff. Talk about some stuff that came in the shop the last couple of weeks, because last episode we were running a little long. So I've saved some stuff for that. And then in addition to that, we do have some new products that are coming in the store. So we'll be talking about that. Links are in the description if you want to check it out. That's kind of my other podcast that I do with the AMG folks. And they've got stuff that are coming in, and they'll give you the insight from running a full-time card shop. So it gives you a little bit of perspective on that. It is fun. We do enjoy it. We're with the Collector of the Scallops, Collector of the People, Bonus Player, and Sherry occasionally will join us as well. Occasionally we get a little Brad appearance. Who knows? Who knows what we're going to have? Every week's a little bit different. But those drop on Wednesdays on that YouTube channel. Check it out. And they occasionally do some breaks, including that WWE Flawless break, which included a Stone Cold Steve Austin 1-of-1 poll. Massive, massive. So you can check that out. Thank you to AMG Collectibles and amgcollectibles.ca for supporting the podcast and the channel. Now, Silly Card of the Week. We thank everybody. It looks like the votes came up a little bit. We got our vote totals back up, which is awesome. And we have something that has never occurred before. We had a tie. A dead heat. So, the VHS nostalgia, you guys weren't feeling it quite as much. 23%. Respectable. But the other two, with 39% each. Almost 40%. 39% each.
That's actually pretty close across all three. That's pretty good.
Yes. Pretty respectable. All things considered, very respectable. So the Suit Up Skate Edition that Eric provided us received 39% of the popular vote, and the Kurt Angle Milk Carton Relic, which we even gave the explanation for the milk carton part, also received 39% of the vote. So congratulations, Eric and Brandon. This week, you co-share Silly Card of the Week supremacy.
No, I don't feel good about that.
Fair enough. Eric, you're disqualified. Brandon, you're Silly Card of the Week champion. Good job.
I'm happier with that.
Yeah. I aim to please. As commissioner of the Silly Card of the Week, Brandon, you didn't realize I was the commissioner of the Silly Card of the Week, so I can make these calls.
I think that's the closest we've had with all three.
I think that's the only time I've seen a draw. Yeah, that's the only time I've seen a dead heat on that.
Well, I'm talking about across even all three, because 39, you said the other, yours was 23.
23 and 239s. Yeah, 23 and 239s.
Yeah, that's good.
Solid work. So this week we got a couple of things there, so we'll get into that, and then we'll touch on one of our first topics. All right, so I think this one was Brandon. So let me bring it up on the screen here, and you can explain it. I think we're going with some pictures, and I had a little bit of fun with mine. So actually, let me make sure I've got these all in the order that I want them in, just real quick. Just make sure. Yes, I do. Perfect. Okay. So this one, the one we'll start off with. So right now here, and again for this one, folks, you want the visuals. Although I will be making a community post on this one, so you will be able to see it and vote on the appropriate one within a day or two of the episode release.
Jesus.
So this is Judd Buechler, is that right?
Yeah, I figured so. With the Luka talk, you know, the hot topic, the NBA, talking about defense. Judd here was selling out for that rebound. I mean, dude looks like he knows Taekwondo going in there to get that ball. And I'm pretty sure that Sean Kemp,
Oh, that definitely Sean Kemp.
that
That
Yeah,
he's
in the background
karate
there,
chopping
on the
in
left
the
side.
rib cage there. So yeah, I mean, Judd is selling out. He is playing the defense that we expect Luka to bring to the LA Lakers. That is the future of the Lakers right there. I can't wait to see Luka go in the paint, karate chop, you know, AD when they play in the Mavericks, right in the rib cage, fight for that rebound. So just thought that would be a fun one.
something else.
Well, like I said, Eric, all I want from you is I want the same energy when eventually the Lakers play the Dallas Mavericks and Luka has himself a 60-point triple-double and karate chops Anthony Davis. And you'll be like, you know what? Respect. That's all I want.
Respect, absolutely.
Deservedly so at that point.
Is
Something
Judd
else.
wearing the pumps?
He is definitely wearing Reebok pumps.
Yeah,
I
man.
thought that's what that was. Yes.
I had a pair. I also had a
more respect.
Mine were gray. Those are the black ones. I had a gray pair.
See, Brandon, we got this is a very 90s-rific image on this. And bonus for
Yes.
having the Seattle Supersonics on
And-
there as well, of course.
It's also very 90s because there would be like 14 fouls in this one picture right here.
Yeah.
But look, even the guys in the background watching, like if you pay attention, there's two players in the background watching with like a combination of shock and horror as this is going on. And like they just don't know what to do with themselves. They're literally just standing there observing this entire thing play out, which is fair.
Unbelievable.
This guy was probably looking at that play going like, "Woo."
So this is Sandis Ozolic. Now, he was a very good player for a long time.
Some would say he was a part of the gold medal winning Soviet national team in the 91 IHF World Junior Championships.
Some may say that.
Mm-hmm.
He had a long, distinguished career, and at times, this guy could be nasty. I mean, he could play hard, hit hard. He was the real deal. It is difficult to look at this Jim Carrey-esque photo and believe anything I just said. This is the hair with like the curls up on the side. I just, you know, the buck tooth look. It's just you would not convince me that this was one of the best players of his time and someone to be feared in the National Hockey League. But he's waving at us with his glove hand. And
are you saying, Eric, that the guy with the making the crazy eyes, with the disheveled hair and the goofy look on his face, and one eye is a little more open or closed than the other, doing the wave, I think you should fear him more.
yeah,
I have one question. Is his left ear photoshopped or reattached? Because it looks like it's way different shaped and off his head than his right ear.
I don't think any of that's Photoshop, Brandon. I think that's just the picture.
He was born in Russia, and it's a good, you know, it's possible that some of the Chernobyl fallout, you know, had some effects on him. That's all I can
So
say.
you're saying he mutated into a half mossy?
Yeah, it's possible.
Indeed. So, you know, it seems appropriate given the discussion that we had on this show that we're going to wind up with two basketball cards in the Silly Card of the Week this week. We started off with a 90s-rific basketball card, followed it up with, you know, Eric in the morning when he looks in the mirror. We have that going for us. And then look in the first one. All I have to say, Eric, is sheesh.
Sheesh.
That's all I got to say. I didn't realize this was a thing, but
Yeah.
NBA Hoops, this is 23-24 NBA Hoops, has an insert that you can get an NBA Hoops premium. And Luka Doncic, by the way, appropriate. I thought it would be thematically appropriate. I figured it might come up.
Yes.
So I stuck on theme. Here.
Yes, you did.
But all I got to say is, sheesh.
Sheesh.
This is what the kids in the vlogs say, Brandon. This is what the youths are saying in the vlogs.
You
How do
just
we wind
showed
up a
the
sheesh?
manufacturers are listening and giving the people what they want. Sheesh.
Sheesh.
Indeed. So there you go. I hope you guys appreciated it. See, I sequenced that
twice. Not two separate pictures. The exact same picture on the card twice.
But one was in color and one was in blue.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Totally
Sheesh,
different.
Eric.
Sheesh.
Yeah, sheesh. See, Brandon, come on. You got to appreciate the order. The sequencing of the images was mwah, chef's kiss. So there you go. There will be a community post on this. You pick your favorite. All your votes count. Obviously, your votes count. Listen, we had a dead heat on this one. So you got to make sure your vote is counted. That way we can find out what the silly card of the week is.
I don't usually pander, but listen, folks, and we'll get to this in a little bit. I need a win. All right. Please have mercy. I need a win. Please vote for me. I'm not in good shape right now. I'm down. I'm not feeling good about anything. This would really go a long way if I could get a win this week. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You know who else needs a win? Probably isn't going to get one, Brandon. Backyard breaks.
No,
So let's talk about it.
For them.
Yeah, they're not getting the wins. But look, I'm gonna share the update. But before I do, I had taken a screenshot of this and I figured I would share this with you guys. You guys might appreciate it. Given the fallout of the whole backyard breaks thing. And by the way, we're not going to go into this in super depth. Just to be clear, on the channel, on the live stream on Friday, we already did a pretty in-depth discussion. Brandon, of course, will be able to add his 2 cents now here in this venue. But Eric and I already explained kind of our angle on this. We'll talk about the update, and maybe we'll add 1 or 2 things. But for the most part, if you watch the Friday live, if you want to see what our thoughts were, skip ahead maybe 5, I don't know, Eric, 5-10 minutes at the beginning. And then for maybe like half an hour, we're talking about it. So like we take a good chunk of time and discuss it a fair bit. So you definitely will get our thoughts on that. But let me quickly share this. So this, Brandon, is one of the kind of little concepts.
Let me sum it up. Just let me sum it up.
Go.
Bad.
There you go. So Brandon, not only was it bad, it's bad to the point that it became a marketing tool. Here's Buck City Breaks on YouTube. Not Backyard Breaks is the thumbnail. There's a selling point. Hey guys, we're not those guys. Come break with us.
Yeah.
I can't blame them.
I don't know I don't know what platform they use. That name is familiar though.
Buck City Breaks, I think, is mostly honestly, I think they're mostly on YouTube, and I think they do their stuff through eBay or their website. Like, I think they actually use their own platform. I think they do their lives on YouTube specifically, because you can see that was over a 4-hour live stream. I think they do the majority of it on YouTube. I think that's their platform of choice. And then the payments and all that is taken through the website, if memory serves me. I remember hearing about Buck City Breaks from Packers Card 87. That was a football YouTube channel I watched quite a bit, and he's done some work with them, and that's why I'm familiar with those guys. I think I even did a break with them back in like 2018. It's been a long time, but I might have done a break or 2 back then when I was opening up more football. I was doing a little bit of that. Okay, so here's the latest update. Honestly, it's not a lot, but I'll read it to you anyway, just so we got it. It looks like our source is going to have to be good old Geoff. Get excited. Sports card investor. So here it is.
All right.
I'll look at a link in the description to it for you if you're interested. All right. So I'll read it to you exactly as it's written here, and then we'll go from there. The Whatnot account, the Backyard Breaks offensive comments were streamed on, has been suspended by Whatnot for violating its community guidelines. To which I say, like, yeah, duh. That would have been that was an easy one. We talked about that on Friday.
Good.
The account, Backyard Grant, which is specifically associated to the individual who was on all the videos, had 87,200 followers at the same time of its suspension. Searching for the account and Whatnot shows that it's temporarily inactive, which was the first shoe to drop for that. So that one was closed first, or suspended first. Backyard breaks, other accounts have not been suspended, which is kind of in line with the point we were talking about on Friday, which is like, yeah, half measures. We will update as more information becomes available, and that's the update. They finally, after almost a week, managed to successfully suspend one account. The Backyard Grant one was early, but he wasn't breaking in the Backyard Grant account, so whatever. But the second one, like, okay, it was this specific one, but they've got multiple accounts and whatnot. So those ones were all still active for days after the fact, and the original one was active for days after the fact, and you could have gone to any of the other whatnot accounts. So on Friday, I spent a good chunk of time. We were even on a Friday, and Eric can attest to this.
Yeah,
I dare say we were 6% more mature.
we did okay.
Yeah, because the point was given the specificness of it, Brandon, I felt it was more appropriate to give it a more very calm and kind of like, let's just talk about this tone. The point wasn't to that wasn't the time to be silly. On Friday, we like to be a lot sillier. I thought, you know what? Let's just have the real discussion. I'll give my thoughts. Eric can give his thoughts. Bobby will chime in with that as well. The three of us got to contribute towards that conversation. We chatted with the chat, got our piece in, and those are my thoughts. My thoughts haven't fundamentally changed. This is a half measure. This is lazy. I said that whatnot is the one that I'm putting the onus on because they're the ones with the hammer. You take away the platform, doesn't mean you can't go somewhere else, but then you've got to deal with the fallout for that platform if they want to associate with you. Could distributors cut them off? Sure. Could Fanatics or Panini? I don't think they have direct distribution with them. They might, but I honestly thought they didn't. That was my recollection, but I could be mistaken. I'll accept it if I'm mistaken. Regardless, though, rather than have 3 or 4 different ones have to cut them off, the platform where the stream is happening and where the payments are being taken is the shortcut to get to the point. It's also your platform. If you're whatnot, they did violate the terms of service. You have terms of service. And one of the things that you shared in a screenshot to the Discord was that it included even hypotheticals. It actually had in the wording that even hypothetical, not speaking about a real person,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't even, you don't even have to be implying it about a real person for it to violate the terms of service, which I thought was interesting that they specifically included that. But in this case, it actually hit the nail on the head in this case. So that was no longer an excuse. You couldn't worm your way around it. Like, it covered that angle. So anyway, we got our piece in, but any thoughts or anything you want to include from that update or anything else, Brandon?
So my thoughts on it, and I want to be clear. I have been guilty of, defending or taking up for breakers that have done stupid shit before in the hobby. And this, we talk so often, it's seemed like things have calmed down a little bit, but we talk so often about bad stuff that goes on within this hobby. And the sentiment and the phrase that's been used many times is it's been going on forever and it'll go on again. And it just kind of becomes complacent to this isn't shocking. This stuff happens. We see the mail, people stealing stuff out of the mail, breakers not sending cards or stealing cards. You got the opposite end of it. People buying into breaks or buying stuff on eBay, doing chargebacks or scamming. All of this stuff out there, right? Any way that somebody can get over on somebody else. I don't know what level we're going to wind up getting to, but it happens all the time, right? But, and I'm saying but, as a father, I would never see any reason to talk about my daughter in that way at all. My daughter is of age. She is 19 years old, and I still would never make comments like that. I wouldn't make comments like that about another person's child. I don't know where. I don't give a damn if you're opening packs. I don't give a damn what you're doing. To have the thoughts, to even have that in your brain and allow it to come out of your mouth is just beyond comprehensible to me. Like, it's not you're joking around about your buddy's wife or something like that. He was literally talking not only about a child, but hypothetically his own child. That is like, I don't know what level of sickness could go beyond that. And, again, there's a lot of stupid, shady shit that goes on in sports cards in this hobby. None of it is right. But the statement has been said. I just said it earlier. We almost become accustomed that, well, this isn't surprising. Shit's happened in the past, it's going to happen again, right? I, this can't happen again. And if you're Whatnot, and they have been pretty much almost the face of Whatnot since the inception of it, especially with the cards and breaking and stuff. That's like, to me, the worst case, the worst possible scenario. And they have to take responsibility for that. And you touched on it. Yes, they could be banned from there and they can go elsewhere because it's gateways. There's too many opportunities. There's too many spaces. And the real problem is with that is the people that would actually follow them, because we see it all the time. People do stupid shit. People steal or whatever, do stupid stuff, and their following still supports them. And that's that's a problem, especially on this level. There should be nobody that should. And again, I don't believe he has a kid. I don't even know if the dude's married. I know he's kind of young, but there should be nobody that thinks that it is okay for those kind of statements to come out of any, not just Grant, not just Backyard, any person's mouth. That if there is one thing that I absolutely cannot stand, is anything to happen or to do sexuality with a child. That is, I'm gonna. It's sick. I want to say other words,
Right.
but for the purposes of it's sick. And
Yeah.
I I hope
Agreed.
that this opens up eyes, not just about Backyard, not just about Grant, but overall in the hobby. We need to do better. We need to stop being complacent when shit happens that, oh, it's happened in the past, it's going to happen again. And I pray to God we don't see anything on this level or beyond, again. But the sad part is it's probably out there and it's just not recorded. There somebody dug up that he had said something about Caitlin Clark or something like that. I guess.
I'd heard something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know when or how long ago that
Yeah.
was, but it was a very vulgar comment
I think the point though,
regarding
Brandon.
that
So I wanted to
situation.
make sure you said your piece because, like I said, Eric and I already had an opportunity to
Yeah,
discuss the general terms, and my focus wasn't even. I'm not a parent, so that wasn't my focus. My focus was from the perspective of this is not their first strike. It's
right, right.
it's not their 50th strike. So it's one of those things where they've had a long-standing track record. So that's why I wanted to make sure you got a chance to say that piece because I thought it was important to have another person who got a chance to say their portion of it. But for Whatnot's perspective, from a business perspective, even if you want to be as cold and calculated about this, it's not a good business decision to be associated with the
Nah,
news cycle is not working in your favor. The news cycle is working against you. And if you're the company Backyard Breaks themselves, you, and this was the point I made on Friday. I said, this is an indicator of where this industry has been, where even the companies in the space still aren't real companies. And when I mean real companies, is I mean there's still a disconnect where people don't, they almost act like the regular business world doesn't apply here.
hmm
Where if you have somebody representing your company, you and I use the example with we joke about the card ladder guys and the Hoj where sometimes he's had conversations on the platform where it's like yeah that isn't a professional thing. If collectors had like a PR department they'd be like well don't speak for us in that way and give don't be antagonistic. And again, on levels, this is a way lower. This is a misdemeanor. Like it's a much lower. It's it's jaywalking. It's a much lower offense comparatively to what we're talking about. Much lower on the scale.
Yeah.
But even then, you're representing the company as someone who is in an executive position, even though it's in like your specific division. Like Card Ladder is an offshoot of Collectors, but it's part of the company still. And you're the CEO of Card Ladder. So you're still holding a position within the hierarchy, however you want to put it, because people work under you and you work under Collectors. So you have to be kind of careful what you say. Now imagine, same thing. Backyard Breaks, whether you like it or not, is a business. This guy is a part owner of that business. As an owner of the business, you're in a recorded platform. And the angle I took on Friday is what I explained was I said, okay, even in our silly live stream where we talk about chocolate sticks and foolishness, and there's all kinds of foolishness for hours at a time. And this is the way I presented it. I said, I, as the person hosting it, I still have to be accountable for what's said on the screen to the best of my ability. Doesn't mean I'm always going to nail it, but it means that if Eric says something out of pocket or Bobby says something out of pocket, or you come on and say something out of pocket, I got to be the one monitoring that and being careful with it because it's recorded. So I have to kind of hold some responsibility for it to the best of my ability, as best I can. So I have to try to listen very carefully to what's said. But for the most part, the people that come on understand that there is topics that are kind of off limits. There are commentaries that are inappropriate. You know, jokes can go to a point, but we have to understand what the line is and stay clear of the line. So whatever it is, like there could be something where very easily we could take it down a path that would cross that line. Very easily.
Right.
So we have to understand, though, we have to be mature enough and we have to understand. And this isn't even a business. It's not a business. I don't have the same financial stakes. The fact that he felt comfortable enough to go down this path and that the chat was okay with it enough to let him, and that his co-host there with him was comfortable enough to let him, that's an indicator of a problem there. There's a problem there that has never been resolved because they've never actually been punished for it. And this update is barely, Neo, I think, marked it off as a slap on the wrist. It's barely a slap on the wrist. It's not really a punishment at all.
When I shared it kind of in the Discord a bit, but Backyard's made that statement about, this isn't the reflection of us, and his statements weren't the reflection of us, and this, that, and the other. But yet you go to their page and the about section, and the first person you see is guess who? Grant. And what is the position it says he has? I believe it's the chief marketing officer. Well, I'm pretty sure statements from your person that is supposed to be marketing your company, the first person you see when you go to the team members, is a huge reflection on who you are. It may not represent everybody in the company and their feelings towards what was said, but he is essentially, at that point, almost putting himself as the face of Backyard Breaks. I mean, he's been the one everybody pretty much knows the name of, yeah, that's a huge reflection of Backyard Breaks, so you can put out the good, publicity statement all you want, but at the end of the day, it's complete horseshit. Like if that's not your reflection, then you also should just be getting rid of him, not stepping away. Get rid of him. Like, I mean, it's just as simple as that. And like you were touching on, whatnot, if you're going to have, and it said a no tolerance policy, okay, so there should have been no questions. It's like no tolerance is no tolerance. It said real or fake or whatever it said, I can't remember, but anyway, like you were saying, if we came on and said something, it's not just a reflection of us. It is because on Carlos' channel, you also have that ticker at the bottom. You say something too bad, it's tied with AMG, and that is a business, a shop and everything. And they're not on here, they're not directly involved in this, but it's still, they're there, they support the channel. And if I shot off at the mouth at something that ridiculous, I would hope that y'all would kick me off immediately and say, don't ever have your ass back anywhere near the channel. I don't want you in the chat, I don't want you part of the show, nothing. Because that is just uncalled for. Like, period. I don't give a damn who you are. I don't care how much money you make for whatnot. Like,
Yeah, and I think though to kind of touch on that point, and I think it's basically what I was getting at on Friday as well, Eric, was that there is a time and a place for a lot of things. I even used the analogy where I said, even if you thought you could get away with it, joking with your friends in a corner somewhere
mm-hmm.
on your own. Well, remember, we're in the era of social media, there are phones, you pretty much have to assume you're recorded all the time. So you kind of have to have that in the back of your mind and go, like, you might want to think about where you are. You might want to think about what you're saying and where you are. There's a time and a place for a lot of things. Again, I don't think where we got to on this specific scenario, I can't find an appropriate venue for it. I don't know if there is one. For me, there isn't. So but even if we scale it back several levels, the stuff that's just general level inappropriate. Like speaking of Eric's athleticism, that's very inappropriate. I don't want to hear about it anymore. But there are time and places for these things. There are places where you can get away with more and places where you can get away with less. As you talked about, we have a little bit more latitude on the podcast here since it is recorded because we can go through it and go like, maybe we remove that piece. So we have a little bit of power to do that. On a live though, the internet doesn't forget. You got to be super careful because now it's happening kind of in real time. So you got to know the venue. You got to understand all that. And then taking it a step further, since you brought up AMG, on their podcast, as they're operating it as a business. So when I'm on there, I'm operating as a host. So anybody who watches this channel and then watches that is going to be like, oh, Carlos, you're a little bit more kind of scale. You're still having some fun with them and everything, but it's a little bit more scaled back. It's like, well, because that's their channel. I am respecting that it is a representation of them as a business. My job is to be a host. My job is to help facilitate.
And in terms of like lines, there's things that there's always the terms of politics, religion, that sort of thing, that can get edgy, and maybe it's joking and one person takes it one way, one person, so you're gonna piss somebody off or offend somebody or whatever. Okay, that's one line, right? And that's a line where you're not going to have a room, whether you're joking or serious, having the discussion. You're not going to have everybody agreeing, right? That's just probably not going to happen. What was said there is not conducive to any conversation. Like, that is shit that really should have legal attributions to it. I get it, it's hypothetical or whatever, because he doesn't actually have a kid and there was no action actually taken. So that probably could not happen. I don't know all of the laws and the rules and all that stuff, and I'm going to pretend to. But it's concerning that any individual thought it was okay, whether in a joking or serious manner, on a live stream with, I don't even know how many people were watching, that it at all would be okay. And then the dude sitting right next to him was essentially egging it on, which made it even worse, almost.
It speaks to universal bad judgment from all the people involved in that situation at the time. And that's why I said, like, again, even without the long-standing track record, which is noted, Backyard Breaks has a documented track record of problems and things that all the way back from the Trevor Lawrence card, and it's a Tesla, all that stuff, and then on. That's not the first one. That's not the last one. There's plenty.
But I would much rather them take a damn Trevor Lawrence card that was part of a giveaway or something than that.
I understand, but my point though is it's like Strike 47. Like, there have been a lot of issues with them, and this is only the latest in a long line of issues with them. So that's why I say, like, there's a reason that and Whatnot needed to understand this part, and that's why I said on Friday the whole idea of suspending. My point was that if you have an infrastructure at Whatnot where somebody is actually empowered to make a decision, the moment you get a report about this, even if you say we need to investigate it further, suspension is the automatic. By the way, suspension is not deleting their account. If you want to take a little time and figure out what happened, check it out, confirm for yourself. Suspension protects you. It allows you, gives everybody a time to go and double check and see what's going on. And then, Eric, if there's a contract or something and there's lawyers involved in all that, you have the ability to review all that. It puts a pause. It allows you. But allowing them to continue to run streams, there is nobody that can make the argument to me that makes sense.
Right.
Are you guys following? All I'm getting at is, at the bare minimum, someone I don't need the CEO shouldn't be the one needing to make that call. Somebody at a normal level should be able to say, hold on, we got a problem here. We need at least a chance to look at this. We need to hit pause. And then you can let them know, hey, you guys had an issue here. We're looking into it. We'll get back to you, but we're suspending this account until we get it figured out.
Yep.
Full stop. That's not unreasonable. I'm not asking for too much. I don't think I'm being wild on this. I feel like I'm operating at a normal level in what you would expect a business to consider. Businesses will do stuff like that for terms of service for less. And they'll suspend accounts and they'll look and review things. And maybe you say, hey, you guys misunderstood or whatever, and you want to plead your case. A suspension doesn't prevent you from doing that. But it's the bare minimum that you should have done to allow you to get a chance to look into it. The fact that it came, and the only reason we have the update is all the way on Monday. This is only 7 hours ago. So the afternoon on Monday. And we don't even have it directly through a whatnot source. I'm getting it through Sports Card Investor because I haven't been able to see it anywhere else. What does that tell you?
PR has been bad on it.
Yeah.
The way it's been
people stayed quiet for a whole weekend and just hung out and just waited. And it's not blowing over. And at the end of the day, whatever, there are some people that were still breaking with them and still buying into the repack products and things like that. The users are accountable too, because it's not like at this point they couldn't have heard. People were getting banned and blocked in the chat for making reference to it. So you couldn't hide from it if you were involved in those chat rooms. And Eric, they were still paying for the repacks and buying into breaks. What do you want me to tell you then? You get what you get. And when the industry is, this is what you allow, this is what you get. So anyway, all right. So are we good to leave it at that, or can we put a button on this one? All right.
Look,
again,
let me
go ahead.
Sum up again.
Go ahead.
Bad.
Perfect. Good stuff. So yeah, I know that a lot of people have obviously done a lot of videos on it. I wanted to make sure that I included Brandon in the conversation since he didn't get a chance to say anything over the weekend on the Friday. I don't got anything else to add. Obviously, we had the update here, so we did include that as well. So at least we were able to add that piece into it. Obviously, look, whatever thoughts or anything you have on it, feel free to put it in the comments section. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it open to those of you. It's completely fine. And again, hopefully you understand kind of the thought process on it. We're not forgiving anything. We're not giving any latitude to anything. It was inappropriate, as wrong, and the suspension to me was late. Should have happened sooner, as far as I'm concerned. That was my opinion, all the way back to Friday. I thought they should have been a lot quicker on the trigger for that. You shouldn't have had to wait. You should have been able to make that call. Somebody needed to be able to make that call and not wait until this point. And again, as soon as you did it, I should have heard it from you. I shouldn't be getting it from a third party. That also is the thing that I got a problem with, personally. But that's just me. Anyway, I'll include a link to the post. But again, I read it to you. But I'll include a link to it anyway, just so that we're thorough. That way we at least got it for you. And then again, you're welcome to give any thoughts or comments in the comment section, by all means. All right, let's go to a lighter topic. Although maybe not for Eric. It might not be that light. The YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame. From one bit of sadness to another bit of sadness. Alas, Eric will not be Hall of Fame adjacent this year. Not even his stirring rendition of Hamlet was enough to succeed in this case. However, I will give the results of the Hall of Fame voting. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give it to you. And I will include a link in the description if you wish, if you're curious. Jake does compile, so Legends Never Die on YouTube, does compile the statistics here. So we have all the information. So in green are your top 5. Now, it was 148 ballots this year, which is one down from previous year of 149, so very close to the same amount. Collector's Dream, Orlando from A Collector's Dream, was the winner with, was number 1 here with 95 votes on a first ballot. Double D Vintage Baseball Cards was second with 78 votes. Sammy Thunder was third with 57 votes. Splendid Sports Cards was fourth with 48 votes. And then Eddie's Cardboard Chaos was was last here on the top 5 with 44 votes. Now, a couple of interesting things before, and then I'll open it up to you guys for thoughts. A couple of interesting things. Last year, this channel actually was on the bubble. Last year, this was 6th for us in terms of that. Now, here's what's interesting. If we go from there, Junk Wax Hero was 6th this year with 43 votes. Vintage Card Steve was behind that with 42 votes. Shoebox Legends, 41 votes. And then Baseball Collector Investor Dealer was next with 35 votes. So if all we had done is replicate last year's total, that would have actually put us at 10th, just ahead of Baseball Collector Investor Dealer. Now, a couple of things. In overall, we ended up 14th here with just shy of 17% of the votes available to be cast. Although I did talk some people out of it, and Eric's impassioned plea, I think, gave a late surge. Unfortunately, Bobbles and Ball Cards failed to vote for us. So, much disappointment, much sadness.
I said it in my video. I had planned to do one, and yeah, I had some guys that took all day to do a hot water heater, and time got away from me. So I do apologize sincerely.
One more vote is all it would have taken to surpass Big Scott 35, Eric. That's all it would have taken. One more vote. Anyway, all right. So here's the thing. This actually played out surprisingly close. I don't remember the exact prediction that I had in terms of where I said I thought it would be surprising if we kind of stayed inside the top 15. Well, stayed inside the top 15, managed that. In terms of number of votes, surprisingly a decent amount, all things considered. I had no concern. But here's my big takeaway from this section. When I look at this top 5, and as a matter of fact, if I look at the top 10, 12, Collector's Dream, Orlando, Vintage, Double D Vintage Baseball Cards. He does do modern, but literally Vintage Baseball Cards is in the title. He does have a pretty good emphasis on vintage. First time ballots, both of them. Sammy Thunder, predominantly vintage, first time on the ballot. Splendid Sports Cards is a little bit of a mix, but he did also contribute towards building the YouTube Hall of Fame website. But all 4 guys in the top 4, this was their first time eligible. So do you remember, Eric, when I said my prediction was that a lot of these first timers fell into kind of this category in this block where this block of new voters or, old voters were all going to be concentrated? Well, that top 4, 1 through 4, were all first time eligible that shot straight to the top of the food chain. Almost 100 votes for Orlando. Again, no issue with that, but all I'm getting at is I knew it was going to be concentrated. And I initially had said 3, and I kind of upgraded it to 4. So I can categorize 4 of these as being pretty close to either vintage or vintage adjacent, very strongly vintage adjacent. And then the last one here, number 5, was Eddie's Cardboard Chaos, that is through the mail. So he does through the mail autographs kind of thing. So that was one on there. Junk Wax Hero is another one who has a very popular channel. But after that, look, but Eric, kind of mental count here as we go. Orlando, Double D Vintage, Sammy Thunder, Splendid Sports Cards, I'm not going to count as vintage for the sake of this conversation, but he does carry some vintage. And Eddie's Cardboard Chaos is through the mail. Junk Wax Hero has a little bit of vintage as well. Vintage Card Steve, Shoebox Legends, Baseball Collector Investor Dealer is probably one there. Hitman 23, Adam's Card Closet, Big Scott, ourselves here, Canadian Cards, Ken's Cardboard, Iconic Baseball, and Purple GT. Well, when I went through that kind of top 12, I counted about half of them being either vintage or vintage leaning, let's say. Very much so in that category. That block was very strong.
I can tell you my channel actually got votes when I was buying and sharing more of my vintage pickups. So it's almost like the and I don't want to say it's fully that way, but it has become more of the YouTube vintage sports card collector Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And I think they're changing something where there's like going to be an OG ballot, or I didn't quite.
So I'm going to touch on that. Yeah, so I'm going to touch on that. So a couple of other noticeable things here that I wanted to make sure I touched on. It's not just being a popular channel, because Card Collector 2 is a popular channel and he had 7 votes. So it's not, that doesn't guarantee you being anywhere near the top of the food chain.
Look at that right there. Go up to number 38. I'm going to give him a shout out. He put you, he shouted you out and everything. And Victor's part of the community. He's very active with a lot of the YouTube community people. A lot of people on this list normally partakes in the national and everything. Knowledgeable guy, tries to do helpful content, and he got 8 votes. So
yeah, it doesn't guarantee anything. Eric's personal favorite, Dr. Beckett, not a real hobby doctor like myself, but
who is he?
He calls himself doctor. I never heard of the guy. 5 votes. 5 votes for that. Yeah, he's getting there. He's a lightweight. He's tied with Neo's Cards and Comics. I might have heard of that guy. He's all right, I guess. I suppose.
Michael
So look, bottom
Myers
line.
made the list.
Yeah. Michael Myers. Listen, you wait until Freddy Krueger gets here. It's gonna be wild, wild. Some days I hadn't heard. Ham. Eric will appreciate that. We did defeat Ham soundly, so we got that for us. We got that.
Oh,
Hopefully
there's
that's some
Boston
consolation.
fan.
Yep. Cards Infinity is kind of an OG as well. So anyway, let me touch on this. So Flippin' Steve here is on this section of the list here. Mike's Retro. So I do know a fair number. Look, Sports Grid Fest, Geoff gave us that breaking news and he only got 3 votes. So being a big channel doesn't necessarily guarantee you anything. So just to be clear.
Jabs family. Everybody loves them, right?
Yeah. So anyway, there's your top 5. So congratulations to people that got the top 5. Like I said, we'll still give our critiques on this as we go, but Eric will lobby. Now he knows that he has to lobby early, and he's got to make sure now he can practice his next rendition of Shakespeare. Or perhaps, again, could be Moby Dick, could be 100 Years of Solitude.
Here's a question. Now, outside of it being, it's spoken on that it's
rigged against this, is what you're saying? That's what I'm hearing.
Well, there's been, terms used as like a good old boys gang or, just a group of people, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that it starts to become where people go on and are watching the videos and hearing the names and then they're like, oh yeah, that name, I need to vote for them. And then somebody else, oh yeah, that name, I need to vote for them. And then it becomes this like, oh, because they heard the name, they voted on it kind of thing. And that starts stacking up some of the votes, because it's interesting, and not, not to go into details or deep on this, but most ballots when they're cast are anonymous, and when you're doing this and people are going around and publicly seeing the videos, and like I said, hearing this name, and then you go to this video, you hear the name again, and it like becomes, oh, well, you're just kind of branching out hearing the same name over and over again. It starts ingraining, maybe swaying people. Oh, well, I heard that, him mentioned 3 times today. Let me go ahead and throw him on my ballot, kind of thing.
Well, I think, okay, so let's, Eric, for the sake of, we're going to have a little fun in a bit, and of course, let you have your airing of grievances. But we will save time for that, I promise. But before we do, let's have a quick, serious conversation, Eric, and I want to include you in this. I think what Brandon is saying does play into it, because the fact that there's a window of ballots allows people to be influenced or swayed. And I'm not saying this in a negative way. I'm just saying, if you've got a list and you're thinking in your mind, I want to vote for this person, this person, this person, and some folks had to kind of call names. They actually had more names than slots to put in there. So they were trying to figure out who fits into this situation. Oh, this person got in last time, so I can take them off. So that opens a slot. And they're playing these games with this list, right? I keep my list pretty consistent year to year. I kind of follow through with it and kind of stick with it unless something changes. So my thought on this was that when it came to a lot of these, you can build momentum. So that's kind of playing into what you're talking about. It's not even malicious necessarily. It's just like, as momentum goes, somebody could be like, yeah, actually, but I'm seeing this person's name and yeah, I think they should. So maybe I'll include them in my ballot. Like stuff like that can go through somebody's head, and somebody voting later on can have a certain idea. I joked about it because I think the way this one played out, and maybe like, I don't know for sure how the timing on it played out, because I can see who voted for who, but I don't know about the timing. In some cases, I'd have to go look at the individual videos. That's to be the only way. But I can tell you this, that initially, because I get the little notification if somebody tags you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that section of it. Initially, things were slow, but part of that is because I had made it clear that I really am not that concerned about it. I don't care about it that much. It makes for good content, though. Let's be clear about that. Praise the content gods. Makes for excellent content. However, my personal concern on it was low. But we did get a little bit of a late surge after Eric's impassioned plea for Hall of Fame adjacency. So that, I think, might have given a little bit of a late surge there at the end. Again, it just came a little too late. We didn't change course fast enough, I think, to potentially stem the tide. Or, we could have negatively campaigned against others. I think that would have been a good one. I think we should have just been like, no, don't vote for that. No, don't do that. What are you doing? But I think that was the critical strategery mistake that was made But yes, I think momentum's a real thing. I think once people can get a little bit of influence based on names they're seeing, but that's why I was able to give you within a reasonable proximity. I pretty much predicted 3 of the top 5 names just watching the ballots, the early ballots, because you could see they were appearing on everybody's ballot. So you could kind of see a pattern forming. Again, you got 10 slots, right? But it's the top 5. So if you're seeing the same names on every single ballot, like I think Orlando in the end, out of all the ballots cast, was on 64% of the ballots. So you had a pretty darn good chance of seeing his channel listed on one of them. And Dylan was Double D Vintage was 52%. So over half the ballots cast included his name on it. And over half of them included Orlando's name on it. So when you've got that, you're going to go pretty consistent anyway. All right. So Eric, thoughts, complaints, gripes. Now's your moment. I'm going to be right back.
I'm going to save the majority of my reaction for Friday, because I know that I'm supposed to be 5% more mature on Monday evening when we record this. So I would like to say congratulations to the winners of this year's U2 Sports Card Hall of Fame. I'd like to say that, but I'm not going to. I instead am going to throw an enormous temper tantrum on Friday. There may be words used that children shouldn't hear. Pouting, whining, crying, victim cards, all will be used on Friday. At this point, I'm just in utter disgust, and I really don't know what to do. I made it clear that this is all I had in life, and my pandering didn't seem to work, which is very disappointing because I thought I pandered very well.
You did pander quite well.
But
I even promised to show vintage cards, Brandon. I even promised to show vintage cards, and that didn't seem to sway the Academy.
So I think I'm gonna let my feelings, my true feelings, be shown and heard on Friday. But I guess I will just end it with this, that you can all go screw yourself.
I like it. I like it. Those are some words from Salty Eric, so we thank you for that. Brandon, knowing the saltiness was coming, I felt a inquenchable thirst, but I'll try to quench it.
Stay tuned for Friday, and I'll have more to say.
So you did mention it, Brandon. So I will include a link to the announcement and everything. The announcement and all that includes the spreadsheet. So what I showed you there was the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet indicates exactly, who it was. Again, I'll lead with this again. We talked about it already. It's a silly made-up Hall of Fame. It always was. It has always been. At a point, the idea could have been made that the notion was, because again, if we go back to the original, the original, the first year, the concept was a play off of the video response. So if any of you remember, the whole concept of a video response is that somebody would come up with a prompt of some kind, and then people could say, be like, oh, what's your favorite vintage card? For reasons. And then people would be like, my favorite vintage card is this one, blah, blah, blah. And then another person could make a video on the same thing, et cetera, et cetera. And Mike Baseball Collector's a big Hall of Fame guy. Now, strategically, his original criteria kind of opened the door for, we're going to pick current folks. Now, to try to remedy this, because again, you saw 4 out of the top 5 were first-time eligible channels, which means they just cleared 3 years. So relatively new channels to the game. Now, if you talk to people on, say, the Instant Revolution podcast, 10 years, 15 years. Eric, 150 years on YouTube. The OG of the OGs. They hadn't even invented computers yet. They'd barely invented the motion picture camera.
Listen,
And let me tell you, they were out there.
If you go into a cave, okay, in Egypt, and you look on the walls, you will see carvings of the IRP.
Yeah, hieroglyphics of people showing mail days,
Okay.
Brandon. Hieroglyphics.
And
Here's an idea.
there's a
Ooh, an idea.
big, hairy, bearded guy right there on the cave wall holding up a card. Okay?
Mhm.
So I stand behind them.
It was a Pharaoh Amish Uncommon. Yes, Brandon.
I'm okay with a short period of years to be eligible, but I do think that they could have done a situation where there needed to be a year requirement and a number of videos required without shorts, because shorts or they'll show up as your videos done. That way, it's not like a 3-year channel that maybe has 150 videos or something. I don't know how much all of those guys that are on there were, like how many they've all done, but it's just something to think about because 3 years isn't that long, especially if you're doing content. It flies by. I mean, it's probably been close to 3 years or probably over 3 years since I started, joining here and there on Friday nights. Eric, I know you've been there way longer than that. Bobby's been there way longer than that, Brad. But that shows like how quick time has passed. So the 3-year part isn't difficult, but there should be an extra level to the eligibility where, and I'm sitting here, I used to do a ton of videos. I used to be on all the time, and I've scaled that way back. So as someone of such, I think there should also be a level of the consistency, the quality of the videos, all of that kind of stuff. Just I guess the usefulness of the videos too, in terms of whether entertainment or information. But it's a difficult road that and again, it is silly and it is for fun and all of that. But if you're only going to have
There were
5
some
videos,
people, it's not just for fun. Some people do
that's
take
my
it kind of
point.
seriously.
That's what I wanted to get at because
Yeah.
it does feel like there's a lot of people that were playing 90s baseball that'll never get in. It has that vibe to it. It has that Pete Rose band vibe to it. If you're not playing the game, if you're not playing the YouTubes, if you're not collecting the way certain people feel is correct, if your content is not formatted in the way that a lot of people feel is correct, then you will get a ban hammer. So, just thoughts on that.
So I want to cover. So Eric, I think we'll have a little fun with this here at the tail end. Although I think maybe there's a little bit of runway in some of this here. So I'm going to discuss the modification that Jake has proposed to try to address some of the OGs that were there when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and you were showing the dinosaurs your pickups. T-Rex was very excited. Very excited. Big time excitement. Yeah, applause. And it was complicated. Like T-Rex had to work hard to applause. Brandon, I think personally, I think that we could resolve most of these Hall of Fame issues if we had simple, easy to meet criteria. May I offer some suggestions? Eric, I think you'll appreciate these. I feel like these should be the criteria for eligibility to be voted upon. Your 3 years as a channel, fine. If you want to include that, that's fine.
Please say war.
But we're going to get there. So I think, as you well know, everybody's favorite war. It really leans on base percentage. So you gotta get on base. So that's a big part of it. So it's going to be a part of the game. But to bring that into YouTube terms, Brandon, like I think at the bare minimum, I think if you're going to be an eligible channel and you're being serious, you're not goofing around here. Like if this is seriously serious business. I think if you're going to be an eligible channel, you should at least make 160 videos in a year, at least 160 minimum. And in addition to that, I think you need the watch time. I think you need the watch time hours. So let's say 161 videos, for example, in 14 days, 8 hours, 40 minutes, and 57 seconds worth of videos. I feel like that's the minimum bar you should be hitting in a year to even be considered. Anything shy of that, what are we even doing here? Honestly.
It's only 2 weeks.
Because less than that, like that's more than 2 weeks worth of videos in a calendar year. 2 weeks of people's lives. If you can't manage that, then I don't know why you're even trying. Stick to TikTok. Like, get out of here. What are we doing? You know what I'm saying, Eric?
Oh yeah. I am picking up what you're putting down.
Mm-hmm. Brandon, standards, man. Standards.
Yeah.
And not only that, I think, in the same vein as that, I need to see a little Shakespeare in those channels at some point during the year. I need to see some Shakespeare.
It's only fair.
All I'm saying, I want to see some hashtag culture. I want to see some praising of the content gods. I think all of these things are required. Required. And what if you have live streams? Well, great. Live streams are awesome. What if the live streams have an episodic nature? Interesting. Interesting. All I'm getting at is, Hall of Fame or not, get on my level. Get on my level, peasants. Step up your game. Get on my level. Eric, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I got a lot to say.
So, by the way, for the record, at the year-end video, I was trying to give the timing on it. No, that was last year's runtime. 14 days, 8 hours, 40 minutes, and 57 seconds worth of videos. Lives, podcasts, videos, all of it. 14 days. You can hit the playlist at the beginning, have a 2-week vacation. You still got 8 hours left. Get on it. And that's still well over a week, even if you 2x speed it. Just saying. Get on my level. All right. So here was the addition. The addition we kind of touched on. So what happened is Jake did the explanation, gave the rundown, gave the results. I'll include a link to this video if you want to watch it. He then introduced Brad 8671, who's been on this channel before, who I've chatted with a little bit off and on, and who's Bradley Claus, who has been very generous to send people gifts as well through the YouTube community folks. And Brad will be kind of representing or taking up or kind of helping out with, I guess, kind of an OG veterans committee of sorts or something. The idea being basically, again, with all the silliness notwithstanding, I will give Jake credit that in looking at, all you have to do is look at the numbers I showed you. Remember, I actually went into depth with the numbers. We had a little bit of fun with the whole spreadsheet and everything. But you saw how many first-time channels because this is the first year they were qualified at that bare minimum 3-year thing. So obviously a lot of the old channels get kind of ignored because they don't produce videos anymore, one, or B, they're not as consistent with it, even if they do, it's once in a blue moon. So they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. Or C, they're just not hitting on the current zeitgeist of what YouTube is today. So the voting naturally is going to have, so Brandon, what I like to do to finish up here is have like a serious conversation touching on one of the things you were talking about, but also open it up. And Eric, I do want you to participate in this. The nature of this thing was always going to mean it was going to be a popularity contest. The problem with that is that you basically find yourself in different waves of popularity. What is the current genre? Because when Dave and Steve, wax poetic, and they wax poetic. I think they might have 14 days and 8 hours worth of waxing poetic about the OGs. And they might just do that every day. So I'm just throwing it out there. But when they talk about that, back in their day, it was heavy football card focused. That was one of the key discussion points they talk about. So heavy on the football cards. Today, the pendulum has swung, not only to baseball cards, but vintage baseball cards right now is kind of the strong block that I had talked about, that I had represented it. Not even just vintage in general, but vintage baseball is a very strong block specifically. You know, vintage football is part of it, but not to the same degree. Vintage hockey exists, but it's not, you know, look, if we talk about the vintage hockey block, you're not going to have much. There's not much weight you can put behind it. The other ones are not going to have the same strength. But if you talk about the vintage baseball block, it's pretty strong. Right now, it's very, because number one, there's a lot of channels that are represented by that right now. A lot of those channels are active. And because those channels are still relatively new in their creation, and Brandon can attest to this, guess what? And this isn't a knock on anybody, just to be clear. It's easier to have fresh ideas when it's new to you, when you haven't already made 1,000 videos. That was why when Eric, when we did that podcast episode where I talked about 1,000 videos later, well, guess what? Making 1,000 videos means you've made 1,000 videos. How much stuff have you talked about already? Do you want to just revisit the well 15 more times? Like, we joked about it, but it's like, I have to sporadically reinvent part of it. I can't just go back to the well over and over and over again because I will get bored. I need to be interested and engaged in what I'm doing. It's harder than it sounds.
That is where the nonsense comes in.
Correct. Without the nonsense, it doesn't work. The nonsense is the secret sauce that allows it to still be interesting, because you never know when suddenly you're in the middle of a conversation, Brandon, and suddenly chocolate sticks are invoked and it launches 1,000 jokes. Yep. 1,000 jokes. You never know when Emmanuel in Space will come up and then it launches 15,000 jokes. Minimum. But you never know. Only nonsense will bring this out, Brandon. If all I did was stick to the cards, I'm not doing 1,000 videos on that shit. That's not interesting. I'm sorry. That's not interesting enough for me to keep me interested. The greatest joke, the greatest trick the devil of this channel ever pulled was it's a sports card channel that barely shows cards most of the time. That's the best part. Will I show cards? Yes, of course. We have a silly card of the week here. But Brandon, beyond the silly card of the week, how many cards have you shown on the screen today? Not that many.
0.
Here and there we'll do it for sure. Look, I got a pile of cards over here right now. I got a pile of cards off screen. I got a pile of cards right in front of me right now.
In fairness,
I got another pile over here.
To be fair, this is a podcast. Therefore, we do understand and appreciate our listeners who therefore could not see visually if we were showing cards.
But it's the same thing. It's the same thing on the live, and it's the same thing on my videos. I'm not showing cards 95% of the time. I'm just not.
I'm trying to give us a little bit of reasoning here.
But my reasoning is that while I'm happy to discuss the cards, while I have no issue, again, I literally have piles of cards around me, literally, and 3 sides right now. Well, actually, there's boxes behind me. So actually, on all 4 sides from where I'm sitting in this chair, I could literally reach over and grab cards.
Yep.
I'm not interested in doing that most of the time because it's like, I already know what I have in those boxes. I don't feel any compulsion to be like, oh my God, I got to show, hold on, let me grab a card. Here's another one. No, that doesn't mean it's bad, but it's just not what I'm into when I'm having these conversations. I want to talk about a bunch of stuff. It's more fun for me that way.
Right. And as you said, there's levels of doing videos, and I guess it's what you enjoy with your content, what your purpose or reason of the channel is, and this is even more important, what your audience is there for. Because when you build a channel, you're building it with viewers and what those viewers are coming to your channel to see. So everybody's channel is going to be different.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes in nature this theory that the ones getting voted in this hypothetical Hall of Fame is becoming like a crew or a clique or a club or whatever you want to call it, because most of them are voting for each other based on their individual interests as a club, right? They have a lot of similar interests, and therefore the audience base within that club has grown and built from that. They don't care about the newsy stuff. They might not care 2 craps about ultramodern or hockey or basketball, any of that. So if that is your stream of content, you're likely going to be left out on the porch because you're never going to be recognized by the majority of the people participating in casting a ballot. So that's where some of this falls into. Also know, as you said, to do 1,000 videos, and how difficult it can be. Let's just be real. It's not, it can be fun for you to do the video, but it also becomes very unmotivating to do. If you put forth the time to do it, you share you share your collection or whatever, you're showing cards, you're showing a mail day or whatever. And if you're logging it and cataloging it for yourself, that's great. But if you're doing it to share and hope other people are going to watch and participate and comment or whatever, and then it doesn't happen, it starts making you feel like, why in the hell am I going to waste my time to do this? And that's always been a conversation piece too, because everybody talks about they want to see cards, they want to see collections, they want to hear about the cards, right? But then you do a video of showing nothing but cards and it flops because nobody actually wants to sit and see the cards unless it's some extravagant vintage or high dollar or whatever.
And by the way, I want to re-emphasize, because it's important, Eric, I honestly feel like I have to put a disclaimer on the screen for this entire conversation. There is nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to
no.
hammer home. It's not a criticism. It is merely statements. It is an observation based on what we've seen. It is an observation.
No, I actually enjoyed it, and I just, we had talked about it earlier. I did a video today, this evening.
Oh my God, I did a video. Breaking news.
Yeah. And it's not newsy stuff. It's not SGC related, anything like that.
Hold on, Brandon. I got you. Hold on.
No,
I got sound effects, y'all.
On organizing the collection of it.
Or anything, something that's gonna, bring me in.
So what I was going to say, Brandon, other than Eric's creepiness, what I was going to say was, though, the reason why I gave the disclaimer there is that, or it could be the case of the block, the group of friends who also comment on each other's videos, hang out on each other's lives and everything, so that if one of them is doing a showcase video or, hey, here's my new mail day or whatever, you actually will get more engagement. You actually will get, as opposed to a generic mail day or whatever. Right. Yeah. Because when I'm doing it, and this is to my detriment, and by the way, again, not a critique, just the reality of it. My detriment is when my mail days are heavily skewed towards the wrestling. So a lot of it is going into the other channel now.
Or
that's
Medano,
a separate thing.
Or
Medano, and it's a little bit, which is niche. Or even if it's not, like maybe a Juan Soto card, like one card here, one card there. It's a mixed mash of different things. It's not focused on one specific thing. Does that mean I don't buy specific things? I showed on the Discord this past week, Fanatic Live. I bought a Whitey Ford 53 Bowman color.
Mm-hmm.
I already have a 53 Bowman color Whitey Ford. But you know why I bought it, Eric?
Because you liked it.
Yes, but this one was slightly nicer centered. It was actually a lower technical grade. So I will probably keep that card, and probably, as hard as it is, the BVG version may go. I know. But I like the centering on the card. I thought it looked pretty clean. I made a aesthetic choice looking at that card, and I said, I actually really like the way that card looks. I already have a copy of this, but I wouldn't mind downgrading to this one that has a little bit nicer centering. That actually looks pretty clean. So you know what? Okay, then I'll have two, and then I can move on with the other one and use the proceeds then to pick up a different single that I need. I'll still buy vintage cards here, but I'm very picky, Brandon. Like I'm not in a rush to go and buy 100 singles to fill in I could already be done. And we've made the joke before. And I've said it as honestly, with the money I've spent on some of those wrestling cards, which by the way, will lose their value. I'm guaranteeing it. All the ones that I'm buying, the more expensive ones, will all lose half to 75% of their value over the next couple of years, because unless you've got the highest end folks, there's a good chance that their value is going to drop. In the money I spent on those, I could have already finished my 53 Bowman color set. I could have already made a huge dent in the 53 top set that I'm working. I could have the Jackie Robinson 53 tops right now, the Satchel Paige, the Willie Mays, and a bunch of the other key ones that I need. Already be building that set and probably working on the next set and be doing it. I just don't want to. I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm not in a hurry, and there's nobody that's going to tell me that I need to be doing it now. I want to buy the wrestling card. That's what I feel like buying right now. That's what I'm interested in doing. And I'm still working on that project. I haven't stopped. I'm still looking, but I'm looking for the right copy. I'm looking for the right example, the right scenario, the right this, the right that, the right deal. If I get those things, sure. Otherwise, I'm buying my damn wrestling card, man.
And that goes right back to what I was saying. I don't know, several months ago, I guess now, the time's flying by. But when I started adjusting what I was doing, and Eric posed the question about the Willie Mays even, I had a lot of appreciation to the cards that I had bought, that I owned. But when I looked back and evaluated like where I was having the most fun, where I was most happy, it was clear to me. And it was a situation of, okay, cool. I have the Ruth, I have the Maze and all of that, and I could keep them sitting here, or I could let them go and realize this is what I actually enjoy the most and allocate the funds over into that, or whatever, hunting rare stuff that's hard to find, things that I'm looking for or didn't want to spend that much on or whatever. So it's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing, and it doesn't mean that we don't like vintage. It nothing. I still have some. I kept some of them, but we all have to find the place that we enjoy the most, where we are the happiest. Eric has sets that he likes to build. That's his happy place. And I don't think anybody is better or worse. I don't care if you have a 52 mantle or, an Onus Wagner even. I don't care. It's cool. Yes, awesome cards. Congratulations. Cool pieces. But at the end of the day, value-wise, yeah, yours might be a hell of a lot more pricier than mine, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're having as much or even more fun than I am. So there's no way we shouldn't dictate each other on what's right or wrong and what we shouldn't be if we're actually enjoying what we're collecting. So
I think that's fair. So we'll leave it at that. Again, congratulations to the folks that did get in. Minus Salty Eric. I'm good with whatever you guys decide to do. But next year, I think we will look. We may have to bring out the big guns. We may have to go some serious Shakespeare. You've been warned. You've been warned. You
I'm just saying, if
disrespected
they want
the
vintage, I'll bring the Onus out. I'll bring the Onus out.
look,
I got to
Brandon.
look in arm's reach. I didn't even have to move and hurt my hip.
All I'm
Actually,
saying,
look,
Brandon.
I even got duplicates. I got a whole bag.
He
of them,
does.
really.
He does. Brandon, all I'm saying, and Eric, mark my words. They have disrespected the culture for the last time. This is not acceptable. This is not right.
I got to get my one vote back. I lost. I had one vote at some point. I lost a vote. I got to get my one vote back. I got to be at least at
This
one.
will not stand, Eric. This will not stand. There will be consequences and repercussions. You will rue the day that you uncultured swine disrespected the culture.
You will rue.
You're on the list. You have so made the list. All of y'all. Anyway, all right. We're going to finish on this, Brandon. I think you'll appreciate this because I did mention it earlier and I want to make sure I got it in there. We did have a spirited discussion though. We did cover a lot of ground there. And if those of you who are still hanging around, we appreciate you. You're a real one. Appreciate you. Don't forget to hit the like button. Eric will pay for it. But can we finish, Brandon? Let's finish on a comment from Refractor Jones. Let's finish up with that. So thank you, Refractor Jones, for leaving a comment on last week's episode. In regards to the easy button, the hobby easy button, we were talking about that. So that's what Refractor was commenting on here. And again, thank you for your comment. So the comment is, laziness is real in the hobby, getting instant gratification versus good old R&D. Research equals learning and development equals the hobby education you develop. I like that you had an equation in brackets, so appreciate you on that. I love the hobby education that research is free just by searching for the answer. Very true. But again, laziness is real. Yes. I can always tell what kind of collector someone is by the questions I receive on cards in the hobby, and unfortunately it's mostly based on, give me something quick so I can list it for sale. A valid observation. I agree. There's no real hobby curiosity in the hobby or specific set or card. Largely true. Very dumb questions, very high level questions. Again, if you don't like them being called dumb, all I ask is that you think about them a little bit more. There's probably a good chance you can answer them yourself faster than you can ask the question. A lot of times that's the case. But if it's something deeper, more elaborate, by all means, please ask. No, I'd rather you ask. But
Or even
definitely there's some.
opinion, conversation questions.
Sure,
You know,
that's
are
completely
great.
fine. Yeah, completely fine. You can discuss Eric's athleticism, his elite athletedom. Just saying, it's open for
real.
debate.
It's real.
Although I didn't appreciate the PS, Brandon, and I'm about to address that here. PS, I don't know shiz about 2020 to 2025 current modern trash because I don't feel the need to learn it, but one day maybe. All I have to say is Logan Stankoven, Young Gun. Do not be disrespecting the Logan Stankoven.
The stank.
Yep. That was actually for Wes. He I'm going to help him out getting this one signed. There's going to be a signing in the next little bit. So that one came
actually
in.
very
But that one
glad
is that was 2020 to 2025
I'm very glad I didn't pull the trigger on the clear cut. That was at the Chantilly show in October. Because I'm sure it's much cheaper today.
Yep. But either way, we thank you, Refractor Jones, for your comment and agreed. Yeah, for the most part, agreed. Definitely. We don't need any of that. We don't need any of that modern slander because let's be honest, all of the SP signature legends fall under that, and Eric appreciates them and loves them more than life itself. Hal effing Gill. Hal effing Gill. Show some respect. It's in the lucite holder. Show some respect. Come on, Refractor Jones. We got to be showing some refractor love for the Hal effing Gill. Come on, man. Come on, man. But we thank you for the comment, Refractor Jones. Just to say, we appreciate you. But yes, you're more than welcome to throw in some comments. We appreciate the commentary on it. Again, we pose these questions. We ask the question. So all we ask is that you let us know. Again, feel free to disagree with us by all means. It's completely fine. We got impassioned obviously today with the whole backyard breaks thing, but that's because it creates that, it generates that kind of thing. But also at the same time, more than anything, it was just expanding on the thoughts already given. Brandon got a chance to include his 2 cents as well, and it's an issue that I think needs to be dealt with. It is a more serious issue, so unfortunately, we do have to get a little bit more serious about that one. I prefer when we get a chance to talk about more fun topics like, again, the YouTube Sport Hall of Fame, honestly, for all its silliness, is a fun topic for me to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take it that seriously, but listen, when we get results and we get a little bit of a thing and I can pull up trends and do all that, listen, I enjoy that part. That part's fun for me. It's going to be what it's going to be. But at the same time, like, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean the jokes won't be coming. Oh, they will. Oh, they'll be coming. Just letting you know. Brace yourselves. But anyway, all right. So that's it for that one. More videos will be coming up on the channel. Live streams on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The longest running episodic, whatever it is, y'all need to recognize, show some respect, because clearly we're not getting the appreciation brand that we deserve. We're bringing Shakespeare. We're bringing culture. What are we doing here, man? We brought you hashtag scholarship. We brought you hashtag culture. What more do we need to do to get this respect? I'm a doctor, damn it.
I guess you're going to have to get the juice.
I guess so. Yeah. Didn't think it would have to come to this, but we'll have to pull out the big guns, I guess. We'll have to do better. Anyway, so that's it. For Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards, known associate 540 Flips. Salty Eric, there in Massachusetts. Formerly aspiring Hall of Fame adjacent and thespian. He put his heart and soul into Hamlet for you people. His heart and soul. You crushed it and threw it in the trash can. And now on Friday, the comeuppance. There will be comeuppance. Oh, yes. But for those of you that check out the podcast episodes, I am sure that if for some reason you're listening on the audio version, you're probably wondering why the episodes haven't been coming up. And that's because Carlos forgets and occasionally is too lazy to upload the audio version. I'm going to try to get us caught up. I'll do what I can, but I do strongly recommend watching it on the YouTube. It is the best overall experience. You get hand gestures, sometimes appropriate ones, sometimes not so much. Yes, yes. And you can include comments in the comments section. For full interactivity, it is the best overall experience. So for Brandon, Salty Eric, and myself, we thank you for checking this one out. This is episode 114. Next one is 115. As we continue this podcast, we'll catch you in the next one.